Kid prodigies are a staple within the narrative of Naruto. Throughout the series, we constantly get introduced to shinobi no older than 16 who showcase a level of power and combat ability far beyond what they should reasonably be capable of at their age. Whether it's Haku the Silent Assassin, Gaara of the Sand, or even Itachi during his time in the Anbu, these characters are all capable of performing feats well beyond the scope of their years. However, there is one character that doesn't get enough credit for being able to pull off Kage level feats as a child, that being the main character Naruto Uzumaki. Within the narrative of Naruto, Naruto himself is treated as sort of the bottom of the barrel when it comes to talent and being a genius, but when strictly speaking about his prodigious nature, i.e. being capable of incredible things at a young age, he gaps his peers by a long shot, which is why today I'll be going over all of Naruto's crazy feats in pre-timeskip arc by arc to show exactly why Kid Naruto is a monster. But before we begin, make sure to like this video and subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. Now, to start the video off, we don't even have to look any further than the first chapter, where Naruto is able to create 1,000 shadow clones in his fight against Mizuki. These clones are stated by Iruka to be solid flesh and blood copies rather than the shadowy illusions of the base clone jutsu, which according to Iruka is the highest caliber of ninjutsu. Not only that, this feat was so impressive that Iruka thought to himself that he wouldn't be surprised if in the future Naruto became a greater Hokage than anyone who came before him. To put this into perspective, Naruto, before even graduating the academy or becoming a genin, incapacitated the third Hokage, stole the forbidden scroll, and in just half a day learned a Kage level jutsu, which he proceeded to use to utterly dominate a ninja that was 2 ranks above him. But let's say for some reason you don't believe any of that, it's just stated by Kotetsu and Izumo that the base shadow clone jutsu is a Jonin level technique, so even by the least generous interpretation, Naruto would still be performing a Jonin level feat. And for reference, Jonin are the most elite shinobi within the series, just short of the Kage, with notable members of this category being shinobi like Kakashi, Might Guy, Dari, Asuma, etc. Naruto even having these sort of implications before even graduating the academy is something that rarely happens within the series. Something else that a lot of people don't know, and this is mostly people who haven't read the manga, is that Kid Naruto is canonically as strong as Saitama. Stay with me now. In the cover of chapter 10 of the Naruto manga, we get a glimpse into Naruto's room where he has various posters put up, but on the leftmost wall we see a training regimen that is eerily similar to the one that Saitama used so he could gain his planet-shattering strength. On it we see a routine that calls for a 10-kilometer run, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 back stretches, jutsu practice, and 100 strikes to his training dummy. This is basically identical to Saitama's workout minus the squats, so by anime logic, Kid Naruto should have the ability to sneeze away the surface of Jupiter. Obviously, I'm joking here, these are pretty standard workouts, and the only reason they work for Saitama is because he's just built different. Moving on to the Land of Waves mission, Naruto doesn't really do much impressive stuff besides his high IQ play against Zabuza, but I already made a video breaking down all of Naruto's battle IQ moments, so I'll put a link to it in the description. Naruto's crash out against Haku, however, is one of the most impressive showings for a genin within Naruto. And for the record, I won't be discounting any of Naruto's Ninetales amped feats since that makes no sense within the context of the series. Tail beasts are assets to their Jinchurikis and their lives are mutually bound to one another. It makes no sense to discredit a character for using a power which more often than not was forced upon them, made their lives miserable, and with which they had to learn to control. So for the sake of this video, all cards are on the table. Naruto with Ninetales chakra is able to utterly dominate Haku and react to him attacking from his ice mirrors, which is significant since it's stated in Databook 1 that Haku is able to move at light speed when moving between his mirrors. This is commonly interpreted as Haku being restricted to only being capable of moving at those speeds when moving from one mirror to the other, but Haku explains to us that all he's doing is using body flicker to move around and is only using the mirrors to hold his reflection so he can pull off the optical optical illusion. We actually get a slow-mo demonstration of what's actually happening when he's using the mirrors, and we literally see Haku exiting and entering the mirrors, bouncing around, making it seem as if he's in all of the mirrors at the same time. Now, with that being the case, we can come to the conclusion that Haku just has a light speed body flicker, since there's no reason to believe that his body flicker gets slower when not moving strictly from one mirror to the other, especially since it's never stated anywhere that the ice mirrors amp his speed. So given that Naruto was able to react to and catch Haku mid body flicker, he should be at least in the relativistic to FTL ranges, since it's stated in Databook 1 that Naruto with Kurama's chakra surpassed Haku. Now, an argument against this line of scaling is that it's inconsistent with other showings of characters such as Rock Lee, who should be above Naruto, getting put down by speed of sound attacks. However, this shouldn't really be a problem since Naruto is being amped by an unquantifiable amount of Ninetales chakra, as well as being mental amped from the perceived death of Sasuke and the will to protect the rest of his squad. It's stated earlier by Haku themselves that when fighting for someone you love or fighting to protect someone you love, you become as powerful as you need to be, which means that Naruto has another unquantifiable amp stacked on top of his KM0. This should also be the case for Sasuke as well, who evidently was beginning to track Haku as he moved through the mirrors. However, as I said earlier, he was obviously mental amped from fighting to protect Naruto, so he can't be used to scale anyone. In any case though, this really shouldn't matter since I'm technically not giving a definitive scale for Naruto. I'm just putting into perspective and providing context to how impressive his feats are in isolation. Then again, if you still don't like this interpretation, Haku is still a Jonin level combatant who Zabuza admits inferiority to. This is most likely in reference to his ice mirrors, given that base Haku is a 2 Tomoe Sasuke victim, so given that Naruto beat Haku in his ice mirrors, this makes KM0 Naruto a Jonin level threat. Now, moving on to the Chunin exam saga, Naruto has a bunch of impressive feats, but the first one I want to mention is the fact that he became the first person that we know of to pass the written exams without even answering a single question. We know of characters like Minato, who had the highest scores ever, or Kakashi, who was the youngest ever to pass, but in its own way, it has to at least be mildly impressive to pass one of the most important exams for a ninja by just leaving the paper blank. But on a serious note though, the actual first impressive thing that Naruto did in the Chunin exams is in the Forest of Death, where he not only tanked an attack from one of Orochimaru's giant snakes, but also with just raw physical strength was able to just knock it around casually. This is then followed up by Naruto stopping the snake in its charge towards Sasuke, which is calculated to around 17.92 kilotons of energy, or around town level. And for some perspective, that's enough attack potency to one-shot 90% of the people within Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen, and most likely instantly give him the rank of grade 1 sorcerer or Hashira, obviously barring speed. After this running with Orochimaru though, he doesn't do that much in the Forest of Death aside from one-shotting Timaboru, but they're a bunch of fodder, so that doesn't really matter. The same can be said for his preliminary fight with Kiba, where I will admit his performance was spectacular, but the fight was won mostly due to Naruto's ingenuity and luck, which I already covered in my Battle IQ video. Naruto's fight against Neji, however, is one of Naruto's greatest displays, and probably not for the reason you think it is. Typically when people talk about this fight, it's usually in reference to his ability to overpower Neji's rotation, which is stated to be an absolute defense, but as impressive as it sounds, it doesn't really do anything for Naruto since the first time we see it in use is against Naruto, so it's basically featless coming into the fight. The person who made the claim of it being the absolute defense is also Tenten, the known Neji glazer, and Genin at the time, so there really is no real weight behind the statement. The actually impressive feat is the fact that Naruto got hit with these 64 palms and just got up like he didn't just have his insides put in a blender. We're told a couple chapters before the fight that the Hyuga clan uses a taijutsu style called Juken or Gentle Fist, which inflicts damage to the opponent's chakra network, which leads to the breakdown of the eternal organs, destroying the opponent from within. There are certain interpretations that claim that the damage done to the organs is only due to the deprivation of chakra, seen as though the chakra network is intertwined with organs of the body. However, we see in Neji's fight against Hinata that damage is done immediately upon impact, where after absorbing 2 well-placed strikes from Neji, Hinata immediately began to cough up blood. She then went into cardiac arrest a couple minutes later, but we know for certain she received damage from the initial assault. Naruto, on the other hand, got hit with 64 of those bad boys and just proceeded to give Neji a lecture on why he shouldn't try to kill his cousin. Moving on to the Konoha Crush arc, which I'll cover here since it's sort of like an extension to the Chunin exams. During this arc, Naruto definitively became a Kage level threat with the capability of taking down 90% of the verse, but before we get into that, I do want to talk about his performance against partially transformed Gaara, where he summons 1,000 shadow clones just like he did against Mizuki. To be fair though, this was while mental amped, which is literally stated right before he pulls it off, but as I said, I'm analyzing these moments in isolation. But aside from that bit of context, we get to see Naruto pull off some of his more unconventional jutsus, most notably the Everywhere Shuriken, which for the record is a A-rank jutsu just like the Rasengan and Chidori. This is obviously ridiculous due to the obvious gag nature of the technique, but when you look at it from a practical standpoint, each clone is throwing around 4 to 8 shurikens, so you're looking at upwards of 8,000 shuriken being thrown from all directions at such high speeds it can pierce and damage partially transformed Gaara. And it doesn't just stop there, since this jutsu is specifically used to set up the other A-rank jutsu, the Uzumaki Naruto 2000 combo, which is essentially a barrage of punches where you get jumped and ragdolled by 1,000 Narutos. His employment of both of these techniques was so impressive he forced Gaara to fully transform, which in turn prompted him to perform his own Kage level feat of summoning Gamabunta. Now there are multiple things that are insane with this feat, but the first thing I actually want to talk about is just his capability of summoning Gamabunta at all. Gamabunta is stated to be as large as a mountain in Databook 1, though visually that doesn't seem to be the case, but just going off optics alone, it's just never really shown to be the case that anyone below the Kage tier can summon a creature of that size. Obviously I'm not saying it can happen, but when you look at most other summons within Naruto, they usually fall within the small animal to school bus size ranges. The second thing is that Gamabunta is a Kage level combatant in his own right, most notably for fighting alongside Jiraiya, who routinely participated in the 3-way deadlock with the other Sannin, all 3 of which were in consideration for the role of Hokage, with Tsunade actually gaining the position. You can also just get Gamabunta there directly via having somewhat relative exchanges with Shukaku, where he slices one of his arms off as well as clashing his water bullets with his air bullets. Naruto just having this in his back pocket, which we know he can use anytime since he learned how to deliberately call on the Nine Tails power, makes it so that any fight that Naruto has automatically has the chance to go from a 1v1 to a 2v1 where the opponent has to fight the strongest toad from Mount Miyaboku. Now for the last section of the video, it's most likely gonna be a lot shorter than the others since there's not much crazy stuff on Naruto's part following the Konoha Crush arc. Typically people point to Naruto learning the Rasengan in a week as opposed to Minato who took 3 years. However, there's multiple things wrong with this line of logic. For one, Naruto didn't learn the Rasengan in a week. It took him around a month, and that's still with some caveats. We know it took a month since Naruto started his training on chapter 151 with the water balloon exercise where he takes him a day. Then after this he starts the rubber ball exercise where Jiraiya tells Naruto he's not a baby anymore, and it's shown that days have passed, giving us a minimum of 3 days. More time passes and Jiraiya says that it's been 3 weeks since he told him to stop being a baby, so already we've gone over the 1 week limit we started with, but then you add on the extra week that Tsunade challenged him with to master the jutsu, and we have our month-long time frame. The other thing that's wrong with this logic is that it's never stated that it took Minato 3 years to learn the Rasengan. It says it took him 3 years to perfect it. If you want to see a full explanation about that, you can watch the Rasengan section of my Minato ninjutsu video, but long story short, Minato created the Rasengan in a day, then took another 3 years to perfect it. This also doesn't even make any sense if you interpret it that way, since why would Minato be learning the jutsu he created? Who is he learning it from? Himself? There are also the caveats to Naruto's mastery of the Rasengan, where he clearly isn't that adept at it to the point of not being being able to make it one-handed, needing a shadow clone and 2 hands to even have a shot at landing it. Aside from that though, I've already made videos going over why I think that Naruto learning the Rasengan in the time he did wasn't that impressive, especially compared to Minato and Boruto, but what is impressive is the fact that Naruto used it to one-shot a Kakashi level threat. Kabuto is stated multiple times to be at Kakashi's level, so taking him out is a crazy impressive feat for a 12-year-old Genin. Now looking at his final valley fight with Sasuke, there are not too many standout moments for either, since they don't really backscale to anybody impressive in the grand scheme of the verse. Like, yeah, Naruto beat up Sasuke at points in the fight, but that doesn't really tell us anything in reference to how powerful either are in comparison to the ninja world. What is impressive though is Naruto's ability to heal wounds and regenerate lost organs. We see Naruto get impaled by Sasuke and heals the damage in a matter of moments, which at this point of the series is completely unheard of. Having this level of regeneration is unseen among most characters in the series, at least at this point in time, which makes it so that you have a significant advantage over most combatants. Naruto having a vast amount of chakra capable of producing 1,000 shadow clones, as well as a healing factor as strong as I just in a situation where he can essentially damage, sponge, and outlast a good portion of his opponents. But with that being said, that's pretty much it for the video. I'm sorry if I haven't been uploading as frequently as I used to. I promise I'm fine, I'm not in danger, I'm not sick or anything. It's generally just procrastinating, if I'm being completely honest. As for what's coming next, I think the next video I'm gonna upload is gonna be a commission, I think. I'm not really too sure. I think it's a commission. It's gonna be coming out in a couple days. It's not gonna take a week, hopefully, because I don't know. But anyways, again, I appreciate y'all for stopping by. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye, B.